Hi there, Dr. Paul Donovan here, and I thought it would be an absolutely wonderful opportunity to share just a little bit about anxiety, its critical importance in how we're living right now, and the leadership we're offering in these extraordinarily turbulent and disruptive times. Anxiety. Do you know, I don't know whether some of you have read this book, Immunity to Change. I read it some years ago, and I've read, I think, just about all of his books. It's Robert Kegan and Lisa Lahey. And do you know, in this book, he's a psychologist actually, and he's a Harvard professor, and he has really set the standard in understanding adult developmental levels. And now is one of the loudest voices in helping organizations grow and develop. And he said that anxiety is the most important and least understood private emotion we have in public life. Isn't that incredible? He said it's absolutely central. It's central to the question of leadership. He said that it's not change that creates anxiety, it's the feeling that we're without defenses in the presence of what we see as danger. We consider ourselves to be without defenses in the presence of something that we think is dangerous. And that's what creates anxiety. And I want to let you know, I know a lot about anxiety personally. I have experienced deep anxiety in my life from a very young age, and so have been working with my anxiety in a moment by moment way for many years. And what I saw in the first place as a kind of a thorn in the side of my life, this nagging anxiety, has now become the most extraordinary platform from which to deepen my own personal leadership. And because of all those years, I want to share with you now that if you're noticing your anxiety going up, and many of us do, COVID-19 has created signs of anxiety everywhere. You may notice that generally when you wake up, you're just generally a little more anxious, because most of us around in the place are more anxious, and we know anxiety is communicated without saying a word. It's communicated in just our presence, the way we hold ourselves, the way we're breathing. All of those factors, the way we feel, get picked up invisibly by those around us, and we are all connected. So anxiety levels are going up, and it's become incredibly important to be awake to our anxiety levels, to be awake to them. Because we know it's anxiety that drives our reactive tendencies. So our fundamental fears of failing, of not having our projects get over the line, of disrupting key relationships, or our fears of being exposed as being ignorant. These three key reactive tendencies all undo leadership and are all go into hyperdrive with more anxiety. So I want to just invite you to use your anxiety as the trigger to dig deeper. Become more aware of your anxiety. I'm going to ask you to do the scary thing of even noticing it so that you might feel it a little bit. All of those reactive tendencies are simply strategies so that we never have to feel anxious. We work harder, faster, longer, so as to prevent feelings of anxiety overcoming us, or we either disengage and become defeated and detach, again with the same unspoken intention of lessening our sense of anxiety. So I'm going to invite you to do something crazy. Notice it. As you notice your anxiety, you will feel it, but you won't be overtaken by it. Because the act of noticing one's anxiety already identifies yourself as someone who is above and beyond the anxious self. So noticing anxiety is a very powerful thing to do. Simply notice how you're sitting, notice how you're breathing, notice how you're speaking with others, notice the feelings that continue to emerge in yourself and the self-talk that runs around in circles and that usually repeats itself. Notice that, because all of those things are being formed by elevated anxiety. As you notice those things, notice how anxiety is being exhibited, but notice that the person who's noticing is actually not that anxious. It's incredible. Have you ever realized that? It's been a source of extraordinary joy and pleasure for me to realize that as I notice my anxiety, I realize the person who's noticing isn't all that anxious at all. The person who's noticing is far more resourceful, is tapped into knowledge that our anxious self is not. The person who observes is able to take decisive strategic action. The person who observes is able to ask better questions, engage in more thoughtful dialogue, and cut through unneeded work to go to what's required now. That's what I'd love for you to do. This is my invitation to you. Anxiety is the most wonderful invitation to find our better self. So please notice your anxiety. Don't let it just drive you faster. Pause, notice. And that person who notices then can ask better questions, have more insight, and direct you to far more potent action. Thanks everyone. I hope this helps. I'm speaking of someone who's managing anxiety even now in these anxious times, but has had many years of focusing on and driving insight from anxiety. I hope that's your experience now. I'll talk soon. Bye.